up the dirty way.
Hello, my name is Gemma and I'm 16 years old. My favourite things to do are reading books and writing stories. While I do like all genres of literature, my favourite would have to be Gothic romance. Because it takes me to a new world that's completely different from ours. It takes me away from all the problems going on in our world. But then again, I suppose it's exactly the same, because the villains that are in them are exactly the same as the bad people in our society. Only they have supernatural powers and they go around killing everyone. Stereotypically, I am a part of youth culture. However, I step outside the social restrictions of this group because whilst most other teenagers are out partying and being wild, I would much prefer to stay at home and read my books. So who, or what, am I if I don't conform to how others my age are stereotyped to act? Many people would identify me as a stereotype nerd because I optionally stay in and read a book, while others have even called me a greb because I read Gothic novels. Because of these stereotypes, I keep my love of reading in my private circle, whereas when I was younger, I used to keep it in my public. I do this for fear that I will be negatively placed into a stereotype that isn't really me. Many people find it odd that I would rather read a book than socialise. This is probably because people nowadays still believe the canon applies to books. It is perceived that they are solely high culture, with none being available in the popular culture. However, there are many books that are classed as popular culture. But because of this belief, I am forced to wear a mask by pretending that I'm not interested in books, for fear of the negative feedback that I will receive.
Read some Byron, Shelley and Keats, recited it over a hip-hop beat. I'm having trouble saying what I mean with dead poets and drum machines.
Although I conform not to tell people my age that I read, there are times when it comes into good use. An example of this is when teachers or other adults of authority ask what books I'm reading or have read, and I can make myself appear intellectual by saying I'm reading books like Dracula. Gothic literature was invented by the English author Horace Walpole with his 1764 novel The Castle of Otranto. Other than romance, it also includes melodrama and parody. According to Wikipedia, one of the earliest romance novels was Samuel Richardson's Pamela. It focused entirely on courtship and did so from the perspective of a female protagonist. Or did it? The male gaze theory states that we see women in books and movies from the perspective of men. So what is the common female to see in Gothic romance?
You were the prince, I used to be a damsel in distress. You took me by the hand and you picked me up at 6. Today it was a fairy tale.
Females in Gothic novels are mainly represented as the typical damsel in distress or persecuted maiden. They were seen as this because they were pure and innocent and they needed to have their virtue protected. However, if the female wasn't the typical damsel in distress, then she'll be given degrading titles such as femme fatale, which is French for deadly woman. This was degrading because it meant that you would probably convince the hero of the novel to do something wrong or something against his typical morals. These females would be represented either as a vampire, a witch, or a female demon. But because of these representations, I face a dilemma of deciding whether to appear femme fatale, because they are the independent women, or whether to be a damsel in distress, because they are always the girls who win the guys and appear more feminine and are more culturally accepted because they follow their gender stereotypes. I also have a dilemma with the representation of the female characters themselves, For example, in Anne Rice's novel, The Vampire Lestat, Gabrielle looked impossible. A woman torn out of time and taste, clad only in slippers and dress, no chains on her, free to soar. So even though she is free to do whatever she wants to do, she still chooses to eventually dress like a man. As a reader, I wonder why she would be more comfortable as a man. Perhaps it is due to the fact that because she is independent and free, and she no longer feels like a woman. So this makes me believe, as a reader, that if I become independent, then I'll be rejected by society, but also by myself. While, yes, females are represented in such a bad way in these novels, I still believe there is some good in them, because the main point is that the femme fatale and the damsel in distress are always having disagreements, and the storyline is centralized on them and their troubles with each other. I believe this reflects real life, because in each woman there is the femme fatale and the damsel in distress. It shows the fight we have with ourselves and with society about which one we should be. I truly believe that this is what really draws us in.
So back to the earlier question, who am I? I'm both femme fatale and damsel in distress, depending on which mask or persona I feel to wear that day.
Whoa, whoa, oh.